Barlinek boards are a modern floor combining all the advantages of traditional wooden floors with the ease of assembly of snap-together boards. The unique bar-click joints developed by Barlinek's technicians enable simple, fast and clean assembly in a floating system. Thanks to the appropriate thickness of its bottom layer, the board can also be glued to the surface. Barlinek boards can also be laid on top of floor heating. We can lay Barlinek floorboards on any dry, clean, resistant and even surface. Apart from this, we must check the moisture content of the floor, which should equal to 2% for concrete, 8% for wood and 0.5% for an anhydrite surface. Before unpacking the boards, store them horizontally in the room in which the floor is to be laid for at least 48 hours. We check how even the floor is using a traversing rule at least 2 meters long or a spirit level. The difference in floor level over 2 meters should not be greater than 2 millimeters. If the difference is greater, the floor needs to be evened. The room must be well ventilated. Remove the boards from their packaging on the day they are to be laid. Before assembling them, inspect the boards, plan the layout and read the instructions carefully. The following tools will be required to lay the Barlinek boards: a hammer, an assembly jig, a ruler or measuring tape, a small toothed handsaw or electric saw, wooden wedges and push block for final positioning of the floorboards. For the underlay, use natural materials from the Barkit System range, corrugated cardboard, cork mat or natural subfloorboards. The dimensions of the room dictate the direction the boards are laid in. If the room has no sides more than 8 meters long, we recommend you lay the floor in the direction of the sun's rays, namely at a right angle to the window which receives the most sunlight. In rooms more than 8 meters long, narrow rooms or corridors, always lay the floorboards along the longer side. If the moisture content of the concrete base is 2 to 3%, we recommend you insulate it with 0.2 mm thick polyethylene film to protect the floor from damp. When laying this, keep at least a 20 centimeters overlap, fastening the sheets together with sticky tape. Start laying the floor by arranging the underlay with the edges tight together but never overlapping, except for natural sub-floorboards, which we arrange with 2 mm gaps between the boards and 10 mm between the boards and the walls. We lay the first row of boards with the tongue to the wall. Connect the individual boards on the shorter edges by pushing in the protruding elements of the joint of each board, that's the tongue, into the groove, keeping them parallel. Cut the final board down to size, remembering to leave a gap to allow for expansion, which we will fill with wedges. Start laying the next row of boards with the piece left over from the first row, unless it is more than 50 centimeters long. Also remember to keep a minimum of 50 centimeters of a shift between the ends of the boards in adjacent strips of flooring. Holding the section of board up diagonally, we place the tongue in the groove of the next one and push it in downwards by hand. Then we knock it home with the wooden block towards the strip which is already assembled. We install the next board in the same way, keeping a 5 to 8 mm gap between the fronts. We use a hammer and assembly jig to knock the board home from the shorter side, thus connecting the boards from the front. Each assembled row of boards should be knocked home from the front using the assembly jig. Remember, when assembling a board, we do not use the assembly strips used when laying the laminate flooring. If there are obstacles which need to be avoided, for example central heating pipes, cut the board to shape, keeping a 10 mm expansion gap around the object being avoided. The final row of boards must be precisely measured before laying. If it is too wide, cut the boards down to the appropriate size. The part of the board with the tongue should be cut off. After fitting it into the others, squeeze it in until there is no gap between the boards which have been laid. There must be a 10 to 15 mm wide expansion gap along the wall. After laying the floor, remove the blocking wedges and cover the remaining gap with decorative skirting board. Fasten the skirting boards to the wall and never attach skirting boards directly onto the floor. As soon as the skirting boards are on, our new floor is ready to use.